Yes, allow me, folks, to touch on the final, or I should say, the sixth and final season of Cobra Kai. Right. This was a
Right.
show that I was talking about since it started. There was one season, I think it was season two, that I did get a chance to talk about, but I brought it up in the next season here. But yeah, the reason behind me not talking about this last time, right, is because of how this final season was basically broken up and released, right? So instead of the 10 episodes that you would get with the prior seasons, right? This time they went, well, just 5 episodes higher. So we get 15 here, right? So to those who are still uninitiated as far as what Cobra Kai is, yes, this is the continuation of the Karate Kid story. And after seeing this, right? Slight spoiler. It amazes me to this day, right? That this show has finally wrapped up, and it still hasn't acknowledged the next Karate Kid,
But that's the thing. I mean, I seen them.
That is
They,
weird.
so I saw the trailer for the movie. When 'cause I didn't watch that trailer at all. I did, but when I went to see Captain America, I
Oh,
saw the trailer.
that would be the next one. Well, I think
The
it's
new
called
one, right?
the upcoming one. Which
Right,
is going to be a continuation of this show here. Yeah.
right. But I thought Jackie Chan was gonna make an appearance in this, and that would have continued on to the new show. But because that fella show is that in the same universe or not?
It
What's
no,
going on here?
it is because
Right,
Ralph Macchio, I think that's how he pronounces his name.
Ralph Macchio.
Ralph Macchio, sorry, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
i.e. Daniel LaRusso. Yeah, he is there. So that's a cut in there quickly, right? So what they're doing with this upcoming film here, right? They are taking the Will Smith reboot. I'm
Right.
saying Will Smith is because it's through his production company, right?
Right.
And they are working. They are actually part of the production team behind Cobra Kai, right? In case you didn't know,
Right.
that's Westbrook, right? But in that film, it was the same. Well, basically, it's a reboot of that same, of the original film, right? But instead of the Mr. Miyagi character, the Pat Morita character, is played by Jackie Chan, right? And
Right.
the Daniel character is by
Jaden Smith. Right.
Jaden Smith, right? Before he
Right.
decided to branch out into music, right? Which is
Right.
weird, right? When you think about it, right? But anyway,
No, yeah, yeah.
so
Like, but here's the
yeah,
thing. What they're doing here is this new movie is so wait. That means both universes is the same universe then, or is a
yes,
different
yes,
character?
yes. So
Okay.
that Karate Kid reboot is
Right.
part of the Karate Kid / Cobra Kai universe. It's part of
Right.
it. Because that will
Right.
explain why Daniel is there in the first place, right?
Right. Right.
But
Right.
again, no acknowledgement of Hilary Swank though
Okay. Well, yeah. Whatever. Moving on. I didn't. I
from
didn't
next
expect.
Karate Kid.
I didn't expect to. But my thing is that so it's that. But okay. So here's the thing. This might sorry to say it for sounding racist, but the boy is the same boy, right? I didn't look up
Well,
the
I
actor.
don't know. I don't know. I
So
all I just know is
the boy looking like the bully from the Jaden Smith movie. But the reason why it can't be the same boy is because like that wasn't like how much years ago, like over a decade ago, ever.
yeah,
So
that came out in 2010, if I'm not mistaken. And I
exactly.
should
So
mention, folks, I should mention, I never watched that reboot, right? But after having seen this show here, this show wrap up, and knowing that this movie is coming out, yeah, I kind of have to watch 2010 Karate Kid. Like, I had to see
right,
for myself. But yeah, go on,
yeah,
sir.
no, right. But so I was thinking, is boy looking like the same boy now? Who's the bully from the Jaden Smith film now? But I was like, it can't be him because that was like over 10 years ago. So I don't know what's going on here now. Like, what was this character? I mean, whatever, we'll see. The
Yeah,
movie, it look
I don't know
okay.
either.
It look okay. But so Jackie Chan playing the same Jackie Chan from the Jaden Smith movie.
Yes, it would
Okay,
make sense for that. Yeah.
okay, no problem.
Yeah, and especially with the universe of Karate Kid being as it is, yeah, they wouldn't bring back an actor to play somebody else. He would be the same character, right? That's
Right,
how it is, right? So for the uninitiated, right? Yes, Cobra Kai is a continuation of the Karate Kid story. Yes, for some odd reason, the next Karate Kid, which by the way was the show that introduced me to Hilary Swank. I think
right.
yeah, this was before she was in Boys Don't Cry and she win the Oscar. I think she
I
won the Oscar for
yeah,
that.
I
I think so.
remember
Yeah.
watching this. I remember watching this in back when Gulf City had its first cinema.
Oh wow! Oh, you
I
okay?
saw that.
You went cinema to see that? I
I
wait till
remember
it come
seeing
out on
I remember
local
seeing it
TV.
here, and I
I
remember
watch
seeing
it.
I remember seeing it in Gulf City back in the early 90s. I remember watching Blank Man and that. Yeah.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I don't remember hating the next Karate Kid though. I don't
Right.
remember hating that at all, right?
Yeah,
So
I remember like kind of liking it, but I had no, I never saw Karate Kid 1 and 2 back then, so I didn't
okay,
know. So, like,
all
whatever,
right.
moving on.
And I touched on this before, so I'll move quickly, right? So when it comes to the original trilogy, right? I was introduced to it actually through part two because part two showed
Right.
on TTT. That was the first
Right.
Karate Kid I ever saw, right? And then afterwards, when I got cable, I watched it first. So I was like, oh, that's where it is. And the wax on, wax off, and the crane kick and all that
Yeah,
shit.
yeah,
That
yeah.
where it came from. Oh, okay, that's where it is, right? But the most noticeable thing when you see that film for the first time, the first one, it's like, oh, is Rocky, but is with an Italian American kid and
Right.
a Japanese
Yeah.
guy trained. Is
And he's
basically the
yeah.
Rocky formula, but it's
And
true to what
he's
it
an
is.
asshole for some reason because when you think about it, he actually instigate most of the scenarios or whatever.
That that is what Cobra
Yeah,
Kai
they
addressed
build, yeah.
so well, brilliantly, I must say, right? But last point, right? But then when it came to part three, I had a paperback version of it
Right.
because there was this bookstore on Henry Street in Port of Spain. They used to sell these old books, like old novels and comic books. So eventually, I bought Karate Kid Part 3. I still to this day have never seen the film right in person, but I have the book, right. So that's that. But yeah, what Cobra Kai does so well, right, and it deals it perfectly, I must say, right. It actually recontextualizes the relationship between Daniel LaRusso and Johnny Lawrence, who's played by William Zabka, right? Because yeah, all because throughout that trilogy, we all thinking that yes, Johnny Lawrence is a piece of shit, Cobra Kai is a piece of shit, they are the bullies, they are the instigators, they're the ones who was attacking Daniel all through, right? But then it kind of flips around and you realize, but wait now, but no,
Yeah.
actually Daniel was kind of full of shit too because yeah,
Right.
he went in on well at the time on Johnny's Gill, right? Who actually shows back up in I think it's season 4, right? Played by Elizabeth Shue of all people, right? Yeah, Elizabeth Shue, right? And throughout this series, right? I'll get to the last season a bit, right? Throughout this season, you see like it starts off with them just maintaining that rivalry, right? And remember, they like mid 50s right now, and they still have that resentment towards each other, right? Johnny kind of down on his luck, right? And then, well, he restarts Cobra Kai. He ends up getting this kid by the name of Miguel Diaz, played by Blue Beetle himself, right?
Right.
So that's like his first student, and then he eventually starts to grow. But Dad's like, no, Cobra Kai is bad because look at what they do to me throughout the entire trilogy. Right?
Right.
They've been tormenting me throughout the entire trilogy. So he went out the way to try to get rid of them, right? But eventually it kind of does not play out like that, right? Because two of the main adult villains from the trilogy show up, right? That would be John Kreese and that would be Terry
Right.
Silver, right? Terry
Yeah.
Silver being the
George.
villain from part 3, right? Yeah, the
Yeah.
two
Yeah. Remember?
main
Yeah. I remember this
big
real
villains show
escalated
back up
because
there.
yeah, I remember the story real escalate because it's like it's Waitress is a like a big mafia thing and like all of that bullshit. Okay, see.
Well, basically, that's in a nutshell. They actually are the founders of Cobra Kai, right? So they
Right.
brought in Johnny, but because Johnny lost in the first movie, yeah, that's where you see that disconnect between sensei and student, right? Because yeah, Johnny was Chris's like star pupil, his star student, right? And because he lost, and Chris reacted like an asshole, yeah, that caused the disconnect in the first place, right? And that as this last season really illustrate, yeah, is why Johnny was the way how he is, right? Why and being a deadbeat dad actually because he actually has a son by the name of Robbie, and eventually it's like this whole crazy thing where eventually the son ended up going to Cobra Kai when Chris attains it, but then he leaves and then he joins Miyagi-Do, sorry, which
Right.
Daniel runs and all that kind of stuff, right? So to just to get to the whole point of it all, right? Yeah, it's basically martial arts soap opera. That's what it is, right? That's the best way I could sum it up, right? But I would not lie to you. It is some of the most entertaining TV I've seen in a long while, right? And I think
Yeah.
the style of it too. What really makes this series work, right? Again, before I get to the last season, right, is that you could tell it's from people who love the source material. They know it in and out, and they find creative ways to progress the story, to progress the characters, to make it modern, to make it fresh, but it still has that nostalgic flavor to it, right? So it's almost as if, because I think, because this show started in 2018, right? So I could tell, like, probably the creators probably watch Creed, like 1 and 2, like they watch that show close, like, okay, this is how these illusions are Rocky. This is what you do. Okay, here's what. So you're gonna do our version of that now, but we're gonna keep the essence of Karate Kid. And that's one thing the show really deals, right? They keep that whole essence. It's the importance of karate. It's about balance, right? It's about offense and defense, right? yeah, it's kind of glorifying the art of karate, which is what these shows always did, even right down to the 2010 remake, right? But
Right,
yeah, when
right,
it comes to this final season, right? Well, it's about, just in a nutshell, talking quickly, there is this grand tournament called the Sekai Tekai, right? Where, the world's greatest dojos, right, pop up to show off, right? So in other words, it's like blood sport. It's like the kumite,
right,
but it's with teenagers. That's what it is. It's like the kumite,
right.
but it's with teenagers, right? And also bad points, right, throughout this show, and in particular this season here, right? Yeah, for referencing shows like Bloodsport and Best the
Right.
Best, they actually reference the best show now. And
Yeah, Bessie
still to this
Best.
day, it's one of the movies. It's still one
Uh,
of those movies that I've never watched. Yes, I know Eric Roberts. I mean, shout out to Eric Roberts. Yeah, I mean, I know he did this thing in the 80s, but I have never ever sat down to watch any of those Best the Best movies. I just
yeah,
always
Bessie
felt
Best.
it was just like trying to be like it was trying to be like Karate Kid.
Right. It
Yeah.
was Blood thing, the Quest, if I remember that.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
quest which
Quest, yeah.
also starred Van Damme, yes.
Yeah.
So yes, it taps into that whole the best of the best tournament, showing off your skills, be the best warrior, all that good shit, right? It's there in the show, right? So yes, you have this grand tournament and it's being held in Barcelona, right? So at the start, Cobra Kai and Miyagi-Do, they get a chance to go there, right? So quick little reminder, in Miyagi-Do now, it's being handled, sorry, by both Daniel and Johnny Lawrence, right? Well, ever so often, one man is all about defense, the next man is about offense, right? It's all about that, right? Johnny is all about being a badass, right? And Daniel's like, no, you still can't be living in the 80s, bro. You know what I mean? But at the same time, he still harboring resentment for what happened in back in 84, right?
Right.
So it's like that, right? So they're running that, right? As far as Cobra Kai, though, Terry Silver's running it, right? Because he set up Ipana, as in John Kreese, now to get arrested, right? So Terry Silver running the show, right? And just like Kreese, he is running things from a more militaristic kind of vibe, right? So it's always about strike first, strike hard, no mercy, right? And one thing the show did well from episode one is when you see that text, right? When you see that motto, it's in this sort of like military font, right? So the way how they treat their students is almost like the soldiers, right? In an army, right? And I mean, surprise, surprise. Okay, so yes, they came from the army, they came from the military, both Terry and Chris, right? Yeah, and it's touched on very well, but I like how it bleeds out in this show, right? Yeah, they are byproducts of the Vietnam War because America lost in the war. It and again, show does this so brilliantly, right? So it always alludes to movies that came out in the 80s, right? So you'll touch on Rambo, you'll touch on what's the name of the show, Iron Eagle and Top Gun, right? Those 80s America propaganda show is like, it's always about USA and all that kind of stuff, though, right? But you can tell it's like, it's almost like they try to sweep away the loss that they felt, right, in the late 60s with the war, right? And always say like, America is like the greatest country in the world. So let's show that through these military films, right? So you see that, right? So yeah, so in the tournament itself, right? Shenanigans take place, characters are brought in and taken out. And there's also a moment where things go haywire in the tournament itself. There's a bunch of rivalries that take place. Some of it actually involve love interests and former love interests and all that kind of stuff. And it just eventually ends now where it boils down to, yeah, which dojo, sorry, is left standing. And I'll stop here, right? So that to me is like the best summary I could give this, right? Because yeah, this season, sorry, goes in a lot of directions, right? And one thing I love though is that some of these directions you don't see coming, right? But if you were like familiar with the show from the jump, you would pick up on certain things, right? So I love that certain seeds were planted throughout the show, and then this final season, you see how they spring up, right? You see how they lead into certain conceits, how they lead into certain character developments and all that kind of stuff, right? And well, just to jump into this one time, right? Just to jump into the review one time. This was a fantastic way to end, which was ultimately, yeah, a fantastic TV show, man. I did not expect to enjoy the show, the series, as much as I did. I really did. I mean, like, one thing I love about the show, right? It just gets better with each and every installment, right? It just raises the stakes even more. It gets you even more invested in the characters. It will take characters that you love or characters that you hate and just give them complexity so you can understand why other characters will hate them and love them, right? And when they take all these characters, though, I really, really enjoyed, right? Now, is it cheesy? Yes, it is, right? Is it heartfelt? Yes, it is. Yes, it is cheesy AF. It wears its heart on the sleeves a lot, though. But one thing I love about the show is that all of it is justified. I like that it's not trying to be something that's not, right. Just like how Creed is, like how Creed is
Right.
in relation to Rocky, right? It's that same sort of underdog story, right? You work hard, you train hard, you believe in yourself, you let go of the past. It's life lessons that you're being taught here, right? And for me, yeah, it's the kind of life lessons that I need to learn as well too, right? And you see through it, right? But yes, the twists and turns are corny at times, and I like that the show isn't afraid to say, yeah, it's corny, it's cheesy, but that's Cobra Kai. Roll with it, right? So I would say that if you've been invested from the jump, if you've been on board from the get go, then you will be entertained by everything that you get here in this, right? But I can
Yeah.
understand some people watching the show as a whole and saying, no, this is just nostalgia bait and this is just dumb and stupid.
I,
But
I,
no,
I remember I remember
it's
I
not.
remember get no I remember like being dismissive of it when it first came out. And thinking, oh, they they're just gonna be the lazy nostalgia beat for it now. He's like, oh, it's a Karate Kid, but then like the Karate Kid have a lot to say. Like you could do a lot with it, and then they kind of just do the things that people wanted them to do with it, and we got that. So like I can't be mad at that.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think like the moment we heard Cobra Kai and Karate Kid, right?
Yeah,
And
I
I
was
should mention
dismissive.
this,
Yeah,
folks. I have never. I'm still not a fan of the first film, right, or the
right,
second, but I still haven't seen the two, right? So I'm not a fan of the original trilogy, right? Just because
right.
I'm not familiar with it that much, right? And because it just came out at that time, like when I was really that big into shows like that, right? Like I love me martial art films, right? But I was more leaning towards Hong Kong films, right? Not so much American films. It's only later on that I will get into Karate Kid and Bloodsport and stuff like that, right? But Cobra Kai, I absolutely love doing in comparison because it just takes what people know about those shows and just modernize them or
Yeah, yeah.
just
That was saying it.
make them
It
still
builds on.
relevant.
No, it builds on and a lot of things about American culture, and for one, it's like again, I haven't been into the show, but the little I've seen and for what other people see, it they do something really interesting with it, actually interesting and actually modernize it in smart ways, no, smart character ways.
Yes,
So
it,
yeah,
it, it does.
it plays with a lot of interesting zeitgeist stuff, especially
Yeah,
now. Like
and
now
and
how we
and
feel about like violence and American history and how they're kind of weird class system with violence and how they think about violence and these kind of things, right? So
exactly. And the
mhm.
key tip comes in the Gen Z perspective. Because
Right,
yes,
right.
all the students are Gen Zers, right? To extent, right? So you see how the older characters learn from the younger characters and vice versa. So everybody grows and progresses, right? Chris makes a surprising turn though, right? In this season here. And I was like, what? I didn't expect that though. Like all the time you would just be this asshole dread, right? But now in this season, like wow, like without spoiling anything, he learns the errors of his ways, right? So I love that, right? And how it compares to Terry Silver, who I will say is like the super villain of this show here, right?
Yeah,
Because
he's
yeah,
one.
he
You have a character that will stay a villain effectively.
yes, and he is the guy who wants to take Cobra Kai to the world, right? So that's why he wants to win in this contest at all costs, right? Because that way, he can open up chains and dojos all around the world, right? So that's his vision. He's the mastermind, he's the supervillain in all of this, right? And I mean, it's Thomas Ian Griffith, right? Which is a name that I was exposed to in the 90s because yeah, they used to have these like let me just call them direct to video, action films.
Yeah.
And yeah, he
VHS
was he was
bullshit. Yeah.
yeah, he was in that, right? And
Yeah, he's one of them. Yeah, he's one of them kings of VHS.
yes, he was one of the kings of just two. You're right.
Mhm.
And dude can still fight though. Like the man
Yeah.
still have moves. Like what? Like you probably like in your early 70s, you could still kick ass though. And real hard though, you know what I mean? But yeah, just seeing how the characters grow and in particular, boy. Um Johnny Lawrence's character arc in this season, boy, wow, right? It's like a complete 180 from the loser that you saw in the first season, though, is is amazing, right? That being said, though, there are a few flaws here or there, right? So, one thing, slight spoiler, there's a legacy character that shows up,
Right.
and they use deep fake for this character.
Really? Oh no.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, it happens. It
I heard
happens.
about this. I know it is. I heard about it. I was like,
Yeah,
yeah, that was really bad taste. They shouldn't have
yeah,
done that.
it happens a couple times, right? So,
Yeah,
in
I
the
heard that.
context of
Ah,
the story, because there's a subplot involving that character and learning about the character, so I
yeah,
understand why he was incorporated into it, right? Yes, right? But in terms of deep fake, there's one moment where the character is where his face is lit, and the other one where he's kind of in shadow.
right.
The kind of in shadow moment I could let slide, right?
Yeah, let's
But
like,
when
got it. Listen,
but
since Peter Cushing, I don't know why it is with these people absolutely just needed to put this bullshit in light, you know.
yeah,
Since
boy,
Peter
because when
Cushing
this
and Rogue One,
and
like, dude,
Rogue
just
One,
keep the
yeah,
man in
because
shadow.
yeah, because
Yeah,
when you see this character with the light on the face shred,
yeah, look
and then
terrible.
and it's when he mount this move. That's when he is doing though.
Yeah,
I
but it look
still don't
terrible.
know, like I still don't know why they can't nail mount movements.
For whatever reason, a mount, like, two things is hard to do. Mount, because like because you can't. Here's the thing: animation nails mount already, but if for whatever reason in the computer, I don't know what it is with CG tech. They just cast squared for some reason. I've not seen a good mount movement in 3D yet. Like, somebody could probably point out an example where it has something super good, and it's probably a tech demo or something like that. But I've never seen a final product that nail it. And it's strange that they couldn't pull this off by now.
Yeah,
However,
I was trying to remember if there was a recent film that I saw
probably,
where they nailed where at least the deep fake looked better, like in some MCU film or something. I can't remember, right?
probably,
But that being said, though, I cannot be mad with how the season played out. The music still hits. The fight sequences are great across the board, though, and I always love the fact that it's the actual actors doing these fight scenes, right? Even right down to Blue Beetle himself, right? Yeah, homie could fight. Homie know
yeah,
karate. Homie could kick ass, right? I just love the fact that Ralph Macchio and William Zabka got the chance to play the characters again and really give them like the progression that they deserve there, you know what I mean?
right,
Treating them as really complex characters, as real characters, right? And not just archetypes of ET cinema, right? They really feel like real people, right? I love that, right? And lastly, just before I wrap things up, right? I just love how it always builds on tension, right? And it could be often like the pettiest things, right? Like, oh, you was with this dojo, now you with this dojo, all right, I want to
right, right.
fight you. Or you steal my girlfriend from me, all right, I want to fight you, right? It builds on these things so well, right? Yes, it is melodramatic. Yes, it is, right? It is cheesy. Yes, it is, right? But it fits with the world of Cobra Kai and to extent Karate Kid. It all fits, right? And yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, this was just a great conclusion to what was ultimately a great series, right? It's a show that could have just fell apart, right? From like let me just see the first or second season, right? But I think because Netflix, took it, right? Because at the time I think it was YouTube Red when that
Right, right,
came
right,
out, right?
right. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
the first two seasons came out through that, right? And then Netflix acquired it, right?
That was another factor as to why I kind of dismissed it, because yeah, YouTube Red content is like kind of weak. So I was like, oh, this on YouTube Red. Okay, moving on. It's like lazy kind of bullshit shows that is half-assed. Um, but yeah, from what I heard, yeah, it picked up when it was Netflix. That's true. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and ultimately at the end of the day, I just love that it was not this nostalgia heavy film where series where we just have to remind you about why these shows matter. It's like yes, oh, I should mention too. This I forgot to mention too, right? I love the fact this ultimately that you don't even have to be familiar with the Karate Kid movies at all to get the vibe of it, to get the heart, the message, all that kind of stuff. So the people who just never who never even watch the first film, they could jump into Cobra Kai and just get a sense of everything that's going on, right?
Right,
Still to this day, again, I've only seen part two once. I've seen the first one probably a couple times, right? And they will reference moments in it, like they will show you cues for the movie and whatnot. And it's still like, but it's done so well that I don't even have to stop what I'm doing to rewatch those films. Hell, I don't even have to watch the third one. I still haven't seen the third one, right? You get the gist of what those films are about. You get why the characters still feel a resentment towards someone else because of what happened in those films, and you see how it progresses from there, and that's what matters, right? So it just does everything so well, Trent. You know what I mean? And yeah, I just can't be mad at this, right? Say rating wise for this season, I have to give this a strong 4 to a very light 4.5 out of 5, right? And the series as a whole, Yeah, like 4.5 out of 5, man. This show really, really worked for me. I should mention last point before we move on, right? I actually took the time as the year started to recap the first 5 seasons, right? So seeing the story play out from start to the very end, literally to the very end, was just a great journey for me, though. I strongly recommend checking it out unless you're just not a fan of stuff like this, right? If you're not a fan, you're not a fan, right? But I would still recommend checking it out, right? And lastly, I just can't wait to see what this movie offers and where they continue the story. So I feel like ultimately this new movie is going to be kind of solidifying Jackie Chan's place in this Karate Kid universe, right? So I feel like that's the purpose of this new movie, right? But bringing in Daniel LaRusso into the mix now makes things even more interesting, especially with how this series ended up, right? But yeah, Cobra Kai season 6 lived up to the hype and more. Strongly recommend checking out Cobra Kai. It's one of the best shows I would say on Netflix right now. Definitely check this out.